Let's consider this question. Suppose that f of x is invertible and that both f and f inverse are defined for all values of x. Let f of 2 equals 3 and f inverse of 5 equals 4. Evaluate the following expressions. I, f inverse of 3 and f of 4. This is very, very simple, all right? Solution. So here, given that f of 2 is equal to 3, okay, and I want to find from the inverse of 3. Remember when we're solving the practice question where we were considering speed, okay, measured in miles per hours, and we developed an equation this way. S is equal to L squared over 20. I hope you recall this. And we're told to find the formula for the inverse, right? What did we do? We just interchanged the positions of S and L. So we had, wherever you see S, will be L. Wherever you see L, will be S. Then over 20. So this is inverse. And they are saying the function f of x is invertible. Okay, it has what? An inverse, alright? So if I have f of 2 is equal to 3, and so inverse of 3 will be equal to 2. So this time around, wherever you see 2, you put 3 there. Wherever you see 3, you put 2 there. By so doing, you say you are what? You are finding for the inverse. So this we can, let's say, inverse, okay? So if this is f of x, this becomes the inverse. Just interchange them. Similarly, they are giving that inverse this, the inverse of 5, okay, the f inverse of 5 is equal to 4. And I'm supposed to find for f of 4. What do you think will be the answer? It will be 5. See how it is? It's just like the opposite. You just interchange the positions and that will be your answer, because f of x is invertible. You get it that way. You see, in that order. 5 will tend to 4. You get it that way. That's it. As simple as that. And we have a very long way approach, and you arrive at the same answer. All right, okay. So we are done for this question. This is the solution. All right, let's solve the next question. Solve the simultaneous equations for the complex numbers a1 and a2, given that a1 plus a2 is equal to 2 and the other one is equal to 0. So since it's an equation involving two equations, like we have two equations and we are supposed to solve for a1 and a2, it calls for what? Simultaneous what? Equations. So we are going to solve for a1 and a2. So I said let 1 represent my first equation and let the second equation be what? Equation 2. So I would say, so from equation 1, from equation 1, I can decide to make either A1 the subject or A2 the subject. It depends on you. So I would say from equation 1, I have A1 equals 2 minus A2. Okay, I maintain this, then I allow this to cross. So I get this, right? So I can call this equation what? Equation 3. I will say put equation 3 into equation 2. So substitute this into that. So whenever I see A1 takes this form, okay, in that order. So I have this 1 minus I multiplying A1 plus 1 plus I times A2 is equal to 0. So I have 1 minus I. Now A1 here is this. So I have times 2 minus A2. Okay. Then plus, I have 1 plus I times A2 is equal to 0. I'll multiply, right? So step by step, I don't want to confuse you, so I'll have to show working. So I pick the first term, which is 1. Open brackets, I just do copy and paste, alright? So 2 minus A2. Then I pick the second term, which is negative I, which bracket, I have 2 minus A2. Then plus A2 by 1 gives me A2 plus I by A2 gives I A2 is equal to 0. I'll expand this. 1 times everything here is this. We have 2 minus A2 minus I times 2 gives 2I. Negative times negative gives positive. I times A2 gives what? I A2. Then plus, I have everything here. A2 plus I A2 is equal to 0. So clearly, this takes off that negative and positive. When they commute, it gives 0. Alright? So we have 2 minus 2I plus IA2 plus IA2 is equal to 0. So I have 2 minus 2I like terms, right? So I have 2 of this, okay? When I add them, I have 2I A2 is equal to what? 0. Is that not so? So I'll have 2I A2 is equal to, then I'll allow this to cross. When 2 crosses the equal to sign, it becomes negative 2. And negative 2I crosses, it becomes a positive or 2, then I. So I'm making A2 the subject, alright? So I divide both sides by what? 2I. The whole of this by what? 2I. 2I cancels 2I. I have A2 is equal to. Now, according to, or in simple algebra, when I have A plus B plus C all over X, this is the same as what? A over the X plus B over X plus what? C over what? Over X. So in this I have negative 2 over 2I. Then plus 2I over 2I this way, this over this over that. So 2 cancels 2, 2I cancels 2I. So I have A2 is equal to what? Negative 1 over I. Then plus what? Plus 1. Okay? You can decide here it's over 1, you find the LCM. The LCM of I and 1 is I. Okay? Or you can just multiply the half I over here. I goes into I1. 1 by negative 1 is negative 1 plus 1 goes into I times. I times 1 is I, which is equal to A what? A2. Okay, so for want of space, I'll bring it here. Here, this. So I have A2 is equal to negative 1 plus I over I. I have it this way, okay? All right. If you are new here, kindly visit my previous lecture slides on complex numbers, where we dealt with division of complex numbers into details. It is not proper to leave your answer this way. So this is what division of complex numbers, and for division of complex numbers, we need to multiply the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate of the denominator. And here, the conjugate of I is negative I. So for full tutorials on division of complex numbers, visit my previous lectures, okay? So I'll multiply here by the conjugate of the denominator, which is what? Negative what? I. Then here to by what? Negative I. You get it that way? So A2 is equal to, so I have negative I times negative 1 is what? It's positive I. So 1, so negative 1 times negative I is positive I. Okay? Then I have minus negative times negative is I squared. I got negative minus here because of this. So negative times positive is negative. I times I is I squared. All over, I have negative, I have I times I is what? Is I what? Squared. But I have negative here, so I have to attach to it negative, okay? I have A2 is equal to I minus I squared is equal to what? Negative 1. I squared is equal to negative 1. Again, if you are new here, visit my first introductory video to complex numbers. I've done this into details. So here I have negative, then I squared is the same as what? Negative 1. Okay, all over. Then I have negative I squared, but I squared is also what? Negative 1. I squared is negative 1. So I have A2 is equal to I, then negative times negative is what? Is positive 1. All over, negative times negative is what? Positive. So I have 1 over here. So therefore, A2 is equal to I plus what? 1. As simple as that. The question says solve for A1 and A2. So I have A2 over here. So I'll say put or substitute A2 into any of the equations at all, okay? So either equation 1 or equation 2 or what I mean. Okay, so I'll pick equation what? Equation 3 over here. Equation 3, because A1 has been made a subject already. So I'll say put A2 into equation what? Equation 3. So equation 3 states that A1 is equal to 2 minus A2. So I have 2 minus, what is A2? A2 is an expression. So A2 is I plus 1. So I have it to be 2 negative times I is negative I. The negative times positive. Okay? No. I have 2. I have negative 1 here. So negative times I is negative I. The negative times positive 1 is negative 1. Okay? Negative times positive is negative. Alright? We assume 1 is here. There's 1 here. Do you get it that way? Alright. So I have, by rearrangement, this becomes 2 minus 1, then minus I. We want to group the real number part and the imaginary part, okay? So I have 2 minus 1 is what? Is 1. Then minus I. So this is what? My A1, as simple as that. So therefore, A1 is equal to 1 minus I, and A2 is also equal to I plus 1. That's all. Viewers, have you seen how simple it is? Just take your time, step by step approach, you would get there. So far as the practice question, ditto question with solutions well explained. Let's consider another question. First, let's solve for the second one. Suppose that Sam and John traveled to separate universities. Traveled to separate university campuses in the same amount of time to make enquiries. Sam drove 380 miles and John drove 400 miles. John's average speed was 3 miles per hour, faster than Sam's average speed. Can you imagine? So guess what? Sam is a male, okay, a guy. John is also a guy. So just try to be in their shoes where you're a boy and you have a girlfriend. You're just moving to separate universities. Can you imagine what will happen? Mathematics is so fun. Easier, okay? So you're welcome to the field of mathematics, engineering, and physics. So how do we go about it? We already know that. So I can say my average speed is given by, so distance over so the distance covered over the time taken, all right? That is it. And velocity, of course, is what? Displacement over time. Speed is a scalar quantity. Velocity is a vector quantity, all right? All right. So for Sam, we have Sam and John, okay? So I'll say let Sam's average speed be equal to have Sam Vs and John's average speed should also be equal to Vj. So this is John and this is Sam. So I can clearly say that the average speed for Sam is Vs, which is what? The distance, okay? So the distance covered by Sam over the time taken, and John's average speed, which is Vj, is equal to distance covered by John over time taken. All right. Remember, the question says in the same amount of time. So I don't need to put Ts here and Tj. They represent what? They are just the same. The time is constant, okay? Tt. All right. So from the data, Sam drove 380 miles, okay? So that's the distance. So the distance covered by Sam is 380, and the distance covered by John, which is why dj is what? Is 400. So I'll substitute this into this. I'll substitute this into that step by step. So I have Vs is equal to, Ds is what? 380 over T. I have Vj here to be what? 400 over what? The time t. Alright? So how can I find for t? How? Let's get back here. So John's average speed, okay? John's average speed. So John's average speed was 3 miles faster. So there's an increment plus, okay? So faster, so 3 miles faster than Sam's average speed. What's Sam's average speed? So we have, this is Sam, so I can say 3 times faster than what Sam's average speed. So that means we have Sam's average speed plus 3, okay? So by substitution, please take note of this, okay? Saying John's average speed was 3 miles per hour, faster than Sam's average speed, okay? So I have VJ. What's my VJ over here? It's what? 400 over T is equal to, I have 3 plus VS. VS is what? 380 over 10. Should be free from denominator, or it should be denominator free, okay? So you multiply here by T, here by T, here by what? Here by T. So T cancels T, T cancels T. So I have 400 is equal to 3T plus what? 300 and what? And 80. So 400 minus 380. So I have 3T is equal to 400 minus 380. So I have 3T is equal to what? 20. That goes up by 3, goes up by 3. So T is equal to, so by the help of the calculator, I'm getting 6.666. So 6.6666 seconds. So approximately T is equal to 6.6. So this is the time, okay? So now let's visit the question again. Suppose that Sam and John traveled to separate university campuses in the same amount of time to make enquiries. Sam drove 380 miles and John drove 400 miles. John's average speed was 3 miles per hour faster than Sam's average speed. So what are we finding for? What are we looking for? It wasn't stated in the question, but so we are supposed to find the average speed for Sam and John. Okay, yeah, I think so. So I think this is the complete question. Okay, so now that we know the time, okay, we said the time is the same, okay, it's just the same. Okay, so we know that the average speed for Sam is what? 380 over T. And the average speed for John is what? 400 over T. But we had T to be equal to, we said T 20 over 3, which is the same as what? 6.666, okay? But I would use the fraction. So by substitution, my Vs is equal to 380 over Vs is equal to 380 over the time, and the time here is what? 20 over 3. And this is the same as 380 times 3 on 20. So 57 miles per hour. Then for the average velocity of John, we have 400 all over 20 over 3. This is the time, okay? So we have Vj is equal to 400. This is the same as 400 times 3 over 20. You reciprocate, okay? We have Vj is equal to, this cancels this, right? This goes into this 20. So we have what? 60 miles per hour. Viewers, this is the end of the question.